Okay, the recording has started, so we're calling to order at 1:02 p.m. and let's see if I can share the document I want to share. Okay. So up there on the screen, we don't need to take roll because we can just check that from Teams. So we have everybody present right now except for soccer. I'm sure we'll be on soon. I did want to mention a few sort of housekeeping things, some of which I already mentioned. I'll put little kind of live notes that you might want to see. We're meeting virtually, so there'll be no expenses, but if you meet in person and you can be reimbursed for expenses to come to the meeting. So if you're flying in from El Paso, we do have some funds available for that, and there's some paperwork, but you can get reimbursed for expenses attending the meeting. So that's something to ask about, and we could certainly accommodate that. I've allotted 1.5 hours for this meeting. Sometimes these meetings take 2 to 4 hours, but we'll leave that obviously up to y'all in the chair and how much y'all want to handle. But this meeting was slotted for about 1.5 hours. As I mentioned earlier to some of y'all, I'm paid to be here. Y'all are volunteers, so I'll stay as long as y'all want. Y'all need anything from me as staff or any other people, just ask. I mean, like I said, this is what we do. It's not an imposition or problem to help y'all on anything related to the broker responsibility working group or anything real estate commission related. That's what we're here for. So it's not an issue. Next agenda item, Scott Kestner, Texas Real Estate Commission Chair, wanted to make some opening remarks.
Okay. First of all, I hope everybody's doing well and staying safe. I just wanted to thank y'all for serving on this working group. You're the cream of the crop. There were, last I heard, over 80 applicants for this task working group, and so you're the ones we picked. Now y'all are gonna do great things. I just wanted to give you a little history. The very first broker working group was appointed by Avis Woodcash, I don't know, 18 years ago, and she asked me to serve on it and then asked me to chair it, and that's when we decided that we would make the brokers have 4 years of experience and so many points and so many transactions. And we knew when we started with the point system that it would have to be tweaked and changed. And I just want to challenge y'all, you don't have to be perfect with everything you bring forward. You don't have to be perfect with everything that gets adopted. As long as it moves the ball forward, it can always go back and be tweaked and changed. And the point system has been changed, I know, once and maybe twice since it was originally done. So you don't have to be perfect. At the same time, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. The previous broker working group have left y'all, a lot of notes, a lot of footsteps where they've been, what they've talked about. Use that as a resource. This is very unusual for a working group, and it's almost a completely new working group. And a lot of times there's 4 or 5 held over. So really use those previous notes and minutes to look at research and stuff that has been done in previous minutes. Mark touched base on this. I have worked with a lot of you in either local and state and national associations, and we got to where we depended on staff. I am telling you, the Real Estate Commission staff is second to none. They are there to help you. A lot of times, they don't know what you need until you tell them what you need, okay? Never, never, never hesitate to let them know if you have a question, a concern, open meetings, a question about it. The staff is just, you'll be extremely, extremely proud and satisfied with how well that staff works. This is an important group. Me and Chelsea, Executive Director Buckholz, we're doing a tour of Texas and talking about, Trek now and in the future. And one of the strategic initiatives requiring legislation is something everybody's talking about. It's license portability. Can you substitute some experience for education? Is there current requirements that are less restrictive, and we can still maintain the regulatory interest of protecting the public? Do we need to reduce the hours for brokers? Do we need to establish not to exceed limits for experience and hours both? So, I mean, this is one of the biggest things we're facing in our industry, and I am just extremely happy we have this group put together to move this forward. Barbara Russell is your conduit, your liaison, your contact with commission. Most of y'all know Barbara. She will do a wonderful job. She's going to be like me. She's going to sit back and let y'all work, and what you need, we'll certainly help. I just want to thank y'all for taking this on. I think all of us realized 10 years ago when broker responsibility started, this is a totally different market than we have now. But yet, we're still responsible. Our number one goal is still to protect them. Yet at the same time, how can we increase portability, get experience for education without minimizing the true responsibility of brokers? I'm going to be on for probably 10, 15 minutes, and I'm going to let y'all get out. I just want to say thank y'all. I think I know every one of y'all in this. We've actually met in person and talked in person, and I'm on that you're welcome to reach out to me. I'll be glad to do anything I can to help y'all. Again, just thank you. And Mark will do a wonderful job leading this also. He's incredibly intelligent, and he realized ins and outs transactions. And I think that's something really needed in this group. So thank y'all for serving. And Mark, I'll hand it over unless I have any specific questions for.
Any questions for Scott? He broke up a little bit when he was praising me, but I won't let him have him repeat it. But thank you, Scott, for the kind comments, and it's the respect is certainly mutual. All the commissioners have been really great to work with. Barbara's been great to work with as well in this as well. I want to go through some introductions with y'all since not everybody knows each other on this. So I'll probably just do it alphabetically, and let me share the names up here again. And we'll just can we go ahead and start with Chance, and just who you are, what's your primary practice area? That probably helps me more than anybody. And then why are you here? I read all your cover letters, but not everyone else knows why you're here. Chance?
Sure. My name is Chance Brown. I'm the broker owner of CV&A Realtors in Houston, Texas. I've got 3 offices, mostly west to north in the Houston area, about 300 agents. And I am man, that's how you make an intro right there.
Yeah. So I heard you talking about 3 offices and
Yep, so I've got 3 offices in Houston and about 300 agents, and I am here because I really enjoy the ins and outs of the daily practice of being a broker, and I also have frustrations with certain things about brokers in the state of Texas, as I'm sure so many of you do. But I've had the opportunity to work with Scott and work with Bob and Soccer and a bunch of the people on this call over the years, and just really enjoyed being able to get back in our industry.
Thank you. Next up, I don't think Soccer's on the call yet, but Holly.
Okay. I'm Holly Hightower. I'm in Tyler, Texas. I'm an independent broker. I've been doing this for about 16 years. And I do know a few of you, and so it's really good to see your faces. My main reason for go
ahead, Holly. I think Soccer just joined us. Hi, Soccer.
Hi. Main reason for getting involved is because I've always been involved. I like the process. I think that there are things that we can always improve on, and I hope that I bring something to the table from our area, so that we can move the ball forward for the next group.
Thank you, Holly. And Soccer, are you on? You're on now. If you can go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're here.
Yes, my name is Soccer Chapman Thomas, and I'm a real estate broker here in Austin, Texas. And I volunteered because like Holly, I've always been involved in either at state, local, and national level in the realtor organization, and I thought, this is an opportunity to work with the state association, with the licensing entity that licenses us, and I talk about that in broker responsibility classes all the time. Trek giveth and Trek taketh away. We don't want Trek to taketh away anything that we do, so we have to keep everything above board. So I'm really happy to be here, and I hope to learn a lot and hope to make a lot of wonderful changes or tweaks to what we currently do as brokers. That's it.
Thank you. And Bob? Okay, let's go with Brian.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, sorry about that. Go ahead, Bob. We'll go back in order. Sorry about that. Bob, go ahead, please.
I guess when I checked back in, I guess it shut everything off on me. So anyway, Bob Jacobs. I've been in business in real estate for 30 years. I've only been the broker for my company for the 11 years. I did management for a few years before that, and mostly it's residential sales, although we do have a commercial division and property management, which I just love completely. And so why did I think I'm the only repeat or retread person from the last time this committee was formed. And really, we had an awful lot of things. If you look back on the minutes of the last meetings, an awful lot of things that were open and we were still working on. And I just wanted to see some of those things to conclusion or be part of that.
Thank you, Bob. And let's go with Leslie. I'll do it alphabetical by last name. Let's go, Leslie, please.
Okay, I'm Leslie. I am in Houston, and I have a small brokerage here. And I got on this committee because I just see how much our industry is changing and how we have to kind of change with it. And I see where there needs to be changes and to keep our value to the consumer. And so I thought this was a good place to be.
Thank you, Leslie. Yasmin?
Hi, my name is Yasmin Perez, and I am a broker in the Austin area. I've been doing this since I pretty much graduated college from UT, and I'm a broker of a small brokerage and have always been in small brokerages. So one of the reasons why I wanted to do this was to get that representation of, the smaller brokerages and the smaller businesses. And I have a passion for this, and I just wanted to get involved and hopefully help make a difference.
I don't want to offend anyone, but Yasmin, that's for you. Bill Roth?
Hi there. My name's Bill Roth, and I've got a commercial real estate company here in the Dallas area called the William Roth Company. We own and manage commercial properties, shopping centers, office buildings, warehouses. I do commercial property management, investment sales, represent tenants, a lot of fast food restaurants. We do project leasing, and we, like I said, we own and manage for other people commercial properties. And my personal objective has always been to sort of improve the professionalism and the quality of our industry and the quality of our service that we provide for to the public. And I thought this would be sort of a neat opportunity to be able to participate in making sure that that we're sort of providing good information, good background, and good opportunities for our licensees to be able to serve the public better. So I appreciate first of all, I'm flattered to be included in the group, and I really appreciate being part of this group. So thank you for allowing me to participate.
Thank you, Bill. And I know the selection committee did have a tough job in picking just 9 people from all the high quality people. So yeah, y'all, and I reread all y'all stuff yesterday, and it's definitely a very strong group. Brian?
Well, good morning. Well, good afternoon, except for Scott. I'm Brian Sales. I'm in Midland, Texas. My wife and I own our brokerage here. We're sponsoring about 16 agents here. We recently opened another office in the DFW area, sponsoring about four agents over there. My wife is our responsible broker. I obtained my broker's license last year, so I'm a broker associate. And I think what I bring to the table is just that experience of obtaining my broker's license without a college degree. And so while I've been managing a brokerage for 5 years, I was not a broker, and just obtaining that the 900 hours of education just took me a while to do it. So I'd like to talk about those issues around trading experience points for education hours so that we can serve our public better. We ought to be able to have more brokers licensed if they've got. So that's what I'm bringing to the table. I'm also excited about the opportunity to work in the group and to learn from you all.
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, that's definitely all within the charge of this group. Pam, you do go by Pam, I think, or is it Pamela?
It's Pam.
Okay, go ahead, Pam.
I'm Pam Pitzlin. I'm the broker at Keller Williams Realty in Lubbock. I have about 245 agents. We do residential and commercial. I've enjoyed being involved at the state level for several years now, and I just like the opportunity just to help our industry and make it stronger and better. So I look forward to what changes we can make.
Thank you, Pam. And Barbara, I know you've worked with a lot of these people too, but I guess you too, please, if you don't mind. Oh, okay. Let's go ahead and I'll just mention a little bit about open meetings. Too, everybody did the training. Y'all were great about that. That stuff can be a little bit dry, but it's real important. Just a couple points I wanted to highlight. These are open meetings. It's being recorded. I didn't see when I last looked at participants that we had really anyone watching right now, but anyone can dial in and call in and watch the meeting and look at this. One thing too is in an open meeting, we prefer not to use the chat function in at least much in Microsoft Teams because we can't really record that part. So there is a raise hand function. There's a way to run the meeting and still keep it open on remote issues. The big thing on open meetings is if there's a quorum of you outside of here, which could happen, really would only happen at a conference or something like that, is you can't discuss broker responsibility working group business. It has to be done in an open meeting. And the other area that sort of gets people in trouble a little bit, and the horror stories are rare, but when they do happen, they're pretty serious, would be what's called the walking quorum, and that was mentioned in one of the documents. But basically, I can't talk to Brian as my role as deputy general counsel. I can't talk to Brian, and then Brian talks to Chance, who talks to Yasmin, who talks to Pam, and then we sort of reach a consensus on an issue and then come back at the next meeting and it just sails right through. So that's called a walking quorum, where you're sort of getting around the Open Meetings Act, and that's heavily frowned upon. So that's the only thing that people aren't always aware of, certainly from the private sector, that there's these laws and rules that apply. And we're here as general counsel to help advise on those sort of issues too, if we see anything that we need to address on that. And if y'all have any questions on that, just let me know. It was also asked too about whether we need, formal votes on motions, or how strict this kind of meeting is. These do fall under Robert Rules of Order, but generally they're not that strict, and obviously it's up to the chair and to run it. A lot of things are done by consensus. If you're going to recommend something through the commission, that would need to be done by a motion and a vote, and we will add that to the minutes so that there's a record of that. But for the most part, as an advisory committee, things don't have to be quite as strict as they are for a non-advisory committee, but even though those laws do apply. If y'all have any questions on that, just let me know. You can let me know now or later on that as well. That gives me a chance to brush up on it as well. So next big issue is the group needs to select a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary. And I'll go ahead and put up here what the duties are, which is, the chair does the hardest part. So basically, if you see there at the bottom of the document, obviously the chair runs the meeting, and for me, I need someone to run the agenda by and go, what do we want to put on it? And it'll be based on what y'all as a group decide, but then the chair reviews the agenda as well before we post it about 10 days before the meeting. So I know that this part's definitely unusual and even a little bit awkward in a remote meeting like this. But take nominations for chair, and then y'all, some of y'all have worked together before.
I nominate Bob Jacobs.
Well, Chance, I appreciate that, but I do respectfully decline. Thank you.
And you're the only retread. Come on, buddy.
That was going to be my nomination also.
The only one.
You were in the last group. You know more of what's going on.
Is there another nomination?
I'm happy to help in any way I can. So.
That sounds like a volunteer.
I would nominate Leslie Lerner for the chair.
We have a second.
I second that.
Okay. Any other nominations?
Aye.
Any discussion? Okay. Okay. Sorry. Just since Amber is keeping track of this, because this is actually a more formal part of the meeting, is who actually made the nomination?
Ryan Sales.
Ryan Sales nominated, and who did the second?
Holly Hightower.
Holly Hightower. Okay, great. Thanks. So we have a motion and a second. Well, I guess I'll just I'll follow Scott's lead on this, what I've seen him do in meetings. Oh, sorry, Barbara. Oh yeah, you're muted. Oh yeah. I'll go. Let me see if I can unmute. Oh, Barbara, you're muted. I'm trying to unmute you, but I'm not sure how. It's on your screen in the sort of middle. If you put your cursor over the middle, you'll see like a little microphone thing that you can click on, and that'll unmute you. You can. No. Okay. Okay, so basically anyone who is opposed, please say nay. All those in favor say yay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's we'll say that's unanimous. Or anyone abstaining, I'll go ahead and ask that. So okay, so we'll say it's unanimous. Okay, so we do have
myself into, but we'll see.
No, it's great to have a chair. So are there any nominations for vice chair? And I'll go ahead and run this part. The only other area, there's an agenda item later where you'll probably need help from me as well. But basically, I'll turn it over to you, Leslie. Then you can do the vice chair.
Goodness. So I guess now we're going to vice chair. Are there any nominations for vice chair?
I nominate Thistle.
Are there any other nominations?
Ryan Sales will second that nomination for Pam Titzel.
And who made the nomination? We couldn't quite get that.
Yasmin Perez.
Thanks.
So, Pam, is that something you want?
I'm in for it. I'm good.
Okay. So is everybody, I don't know all these rules, so I'm just going by the seat of my pants. Does everybody agree with Pam as the vice chair?
Yes.
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 Okay, there you go.
Yes.
And
Oh
then
yeah, and Leslie, for our purposes, we just like to know because this part's more formal. Like, you know, it's obviously this time you did it by consensus, which works perfectly fine. And you'd want to ask if there's any nay votes or any abstentions. So,
Are there any nay votes or any abstentions? Okay, Pam, it's all yours. Okay, so now we're on to secretary. Does anybody have nominations?
I nominate Brian Sales.
There you go, Brian.
I second that nomination.
Will I have to take notes?
no, the only role you'll have is, since we're recording the meeting, and we'll continue to do that, is Amber will contact you to approve the minutes. And then she'll have sentences for things that are actual actions, like this, it would say, you know, the chair, you know, Leslie Leonard was nominated as chair, and there was a second, and then those will be noted. So you'll just review that. But actually, the role of a secretary in the sort of modern world is way easier than it was 10 or 20 years ago.
I'm very pleased to serve.
Are there any nays or abstentions? Yay, Brian, there you go. Okay.
And I'll put the agenda up. That'll help too.
So I guess we're now on to, is there any public comment on non-agenda item?
And we did not receive any, but I would like to, if I may, show an example of the type of thing we receive. And I'll go ahead and put that up on the screen. Actually, is it showing up on the screen now in email, or does it still show the agenda? If not, I'm not sharing it.
It says
Right.
the
agenda.
Okay, here I know how to fix that. Stop sharing that and share the new document. All right. There it is. Okay. So many things open. So this is an email we got a few days ago, and I took out the name of the agent and the name of the brokerage that they mentioned. But this is the type of thing we'll sometimes get, is something like this. But it would be more specific, like, say, I'd like to comment on this one issue. So y'all can go ahead and read that. This is an example. I don't need y'all to comment on it. This is a type of thing that will be brought for you. I just thought this was a good example, because this probably does fall under, is something this working group could address, because it's right in there. It wasn't expressly sent to the group. That's why I didn't include it formally. So the deadline for comments was 5 p.m. yesterday. Sometimes people can show up at the meeting and still could speak on a non-agenda item as well. You can't take action on those, but this will be a recurring agenda item. But that's basically it for this agenda item. And okay. So Leslie, if we're on agenda item, are we on agenda item 8?
I guess we are.
Okay. That one I figured you would know what to do that, so I put the general counsel discuss that, or deputy general counsel as well. And this I just wanted to let y'all know what some of the limits are on what the group is. Obviously, and I'd mentioned before, y'all can't take action, but you can recommend things, but it's still limited to your charge, and it has to be a posted agenda item. So you'll obviously allowed to small talk, and there's occasionally going to be tangents on discussion, and discussion can flow. But as a open meeting or group, it's limited to agenda items, posted agenda items. You're also limited somewhat by the charge. So you might want to go, you know what, I think we should change the way sales agents gets licensed. That would not be within your jurisdiction. Or you think that there should be a contracts course for everybody. Well, that wouldn't be your jurisdiction. That'd be more of the Education Standards Advisory Committee. Also limited by the laws and the rules. You might think something's a good idea or something, and we as general counsel might point out, here's the law on that, and then you might have to seek a statutory change or decide that's not something that could be changed on that. And then the other thing I wanted to go ahead and share, and I did forward to everybody, was the governor's letter. It was sent to state agency heads, but it's something, and I'll go ahead and pull up part of it here too, if I can remember how to find the document again. There it is. So basically, this was a letter that y'all should read, but it basically says that to all the executive directors in the state, all the people who run state agencies, to reduce burdens, basically lower regulation. It's something to keep in mind. So when you recommend something, if it's perceived as increasing burdens or limiting competition or people's ability to become a broker, that could be something that'll be going uphill a bit. So you can still recommend it, the commission may still adopt it, and then the governor's office would also get a chance to review it if it's a rule change or in the legislature if it's a legislative change. So just something to keep in mind as background information as well. Any questions on any of those possible limits on what you can do?
Mark, I have a question, and I don't know where this comes up in this meeting, but so I've read what he wants, and we're talking about people that are out of state and coming in and getting licensed. In some states, such as Colorado, everyone's a broker. There's no agents. So I don't know how that's done through our system, because a girl from Colorado was talking to me saying she was going to get her license here. And she would automatically become a broker, she said. And I'm like, whoa, wait, how does that happen?
And I don't recall exactly how that works for out of state. I'd have to bring in more of an expert on that. Okay. In general, though, if someone comes from another state and comes to Texas, they generally they can get credit for outside, but they generally have to start as a sales agent. So okay. It's not easy. Texas is pretty strict on a whole lot of things like that. But that's exactly the type of thing that this committee could look at, or this working group could look at. So. It looks like we have Bill Roth in person now.
I am here. I'm here.
Right.
I figured it out.
Any other questions on that agenda item? And I'll turn it back over to Leslie.
Well, I have a question.
Yeah.
Based on the things that we discussed the last time this was a group, and based on this letter, what is it that we can actually discuss and recommend changes other than lessening education, lessening rules? Based on this, I mean, part of the theme last time was the issue of problems in the industry and how to combat some of those, and this is more of a letter that says move towards no licensing.
Yeah, I mean, you can interpret it that way, but you can recommend anything you want that you think protects consumers and it's best for the state and it's best for the brokers, and go forward with that. An example of something y'all did in the last group was recommend getting rid of basically branch offices. So that's an example of something that the working group did lessen regulation, but you can do what you think's best for the state. I don't see that letter as a limit on that. It's just something to sort of as a consideration that you need to balance or weigh. It's tough, as Scott mentioned earlier, it's tough to weigh education, experience, how to protect the public, and how to get better brokers without it being a barrier, being perceived as a barrier as well. So that's the balance. So I don't read it as saying don't do your job, but I read it as something just keep in mind on that.
From what Chelsea had mentioned to me, she had said that it was lowering of fees, the letting military wives, I guess, be able to get licensed, and there was one other thing, but it didn't seem
criminal
like,
background as well.
Right, but I don't remember it being such a big impact on education.
Hello, this is Soccer. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I teach the new agent classes and also broker responsibility. The trailing spouse, for the military spouse, can use their license that they have from another state for up to 3 years in the state of Texas without being required to get licensure. If she has a broker's license in the state of, say, California, she will come here and she could work as a broker, but not, as an agent. But if she wants to become a broker, she's going to have to do all of the same things that we've done, get the 900 hours, have the points, and have the 4 years worth of experience and the points to back that up. So that's kind of what I know as far as the licensure is concerned. So we do not currently in the state of Texas have reciprocity with other states. So you don't automatically come to Texas as a broker and become a broker in Texas. You have to start with the same 6 classes and do the same 4 years and the same 3,600 hours. no matter if you were a broker in California for 25 years.
Yeah, which is one of the things that I actually wanted to bring up in a discussion, if it was one of the things we could discuss, is the can't say that word,
Reciprocity.
Reciprocity of other states. I had people I know that were brokers in 3 or 4 different other states that they had to kind of, like soccer said, come here and start from scratch. And that seems, I don't know, I believe that's something that could probably be looked at and tweaked.
Any other, and yes, that's really the next agenda item. I'll go ahead and put that back on the screen. Are there any questions on the limits, or not? I'll pass it over to Leslie on that.
Okay, so I guess we're now talking about what would the group like to focus on first? Does anybody have any thoughts?
This is Brian again, and one of the things that really interests me about the group is the opportunity to discuss the balance of experience points and education hours required for becoming a broker. In my particular instance, the experience points were, I needed 3,600 and I had 50,000 experience points, but it took me 10 years to obtain the 900 hours of education. And so I think taking a look at what that balance is, personally, I think there's, in terms of practicing as a broker, the experience weighs at least as heavy as the education that I've achieved. And I think that's true for my other agents as well. And so it just seems to me to be lopsided. So I would really like to have that discussion about experience points and education hours, and could we take a look and see if we could balance that differently, and is there opportunity to perhaps exchange experience points for some education requirements?
Great. I completely agree with you, Brian, as well. I think a lot of these new agents get out of school and don't have any clue what they're doing, also with their license, and then they just move on up. And I think brokers now need to also have a mentorship type of program for their agents, because what I've in the last several years is this craziness. I'm doing 2 sides of a transaction a lot of times because the other person doesn't know what they're doing. So I've always been in favor of some sort of internship type thing or mentorship, apprenticeship, like maybe the inspectors have, some sort of real life experience before really putting somebody out there in the field.
I think that's an interesting point, and I think not only appraisers but also home inspectors, which are also, those licenses are managed by TREC. I think we can look at their set up in terms of apprenticeship or mentorship if you gain some insight and wisdom from how that is done.
Hi, this is Soccer again. If I'm not mistaken, the latest change showed that TREC is requiring us, and I guess brokers just aren't doing it, before someone goes out to sell real estate. That was one of the changes that happened in the last legal update. We are supposed to make sure that they are paired with someone to do the transaction the first, I don't know how many transactions, because it doesn't give us a number in the change, but I think that was actually handled in the last legislature. I might be mistaken, so I'll look it up to see. But in the last legal update that I attended, and for instructors, that was one of the things that was pointed out, that we as brokers are responsible for the transactions that our agents do when they first come on. They need to be paired with someone in a mentorship program, that's already there. There it is. At minimum, when a sales agent performs a real estate brokerage activity for the first time, the broker must require that the sales agent receive coaching and assistance from an experienced license holder competent for that activity. So that would be for if somebody's going from residential to commercial, if somebody's just going from not selling anything to selling anything, from leasing to management, for and all above. I think it's there, but we're just not doing it.
Bob, wasn't there something that you were dealing with last year?
Wait, I can't hear you.
I was asking Bob, wasn't there something about mentorship that you discussed last January?
Yes, but I don't think that I was just looking through my notes. I don't think that was completed.
No, it was not. I remember it was tabled.
And we had charts, going back to Brian's, we had charts for offsetting education with experience points and things like that. But I don't believe any of that was ever approved and moved forward to the legislature or to rules.
Right.
It seems it may be a good review of what the last group was working on and picking those items up that we need to pick up, and those that we don't might be prudent.
I agree with that.
I agree.
You know, if we look at the last minutes, which were in January of 2019, seems like a long time ago, which it was, but it was. There are several different items that are listed there that were listed as input and things like that, but these were the things that were left over.
Do you have that in front of you that you can read them out for us?
Well, it's like 6 pages of things with all the details. This is a.
Okay.
This is a. Let's see, education and hours and experience. After discussion, most members agreed the idea was well received, with opposition from smaller brokerages. A couple of members cautioned to think that we need to think this through. The director explained that this recommendation would require a legislative change and internal technical changes within TREC, and it would take 2 to 5 years to implement. No specific action was recommended at this time by the group. That was that. Then we had revisions to minimum service, the possibility of creating a form about the IABS, or changing the IABS form, which again would be a legislative change, to put on a couple of informational things and defining when the first time that somebody would be required to submit to them. Legislative change to allow out-of-state practice for real estate brokers and commercial transactions. And again, that was put aside. No specific action was recommended. Legislative change to mandate the broker responsibility course, and that was actually, I think, referred over. It doesn't say that here, but I think it was something that was referred over to the educational subcommittee. Discussion regarding broker registration of successor designated brokers and making it easier for brokers to transfer the brokerage in case of an illness and or a death. Basically business succession, because there's a lot of problems with that in the past. That I don't think that there's been any changes in that area. Let me see. Discussion regarding broker required payment. This was an interaction between the inspector licensees and residential and realtors, where it was, real estate agents, where it was legal for us to want people to pay to play, basically, but it was illegal for inspectors to accept that money, and trying to come up with something. And I think that went over, may have gone to the commission meeting. I don't know if there was what outcome there was on that.
That one has passed.
Okay, because that was more of that affected the inspectors more than it did the brokers.
This is Bill Roth. I had a question. Some of my associates and friends have said that it seems like as brokers, the requirements to retain and produce you get a new license and maintain your license really is pretty all-consuming. And what it doesn't really encourage is trying to do extra education just on your own. In other words, it's the core requirements are pretty extensive and really take up, I don't know how many hours it is anymore, 18 or whatever it is, of just the core legal broker responsibility courses. And it doesn't sort of encourage or allow us to encourage us to seek out education generally. And so my question to the group is that something that maybe should be focused on in the capacity of the brokers' general licensing requirements, sort of reviewing that, and also renewal licensing requirements to see if maybe we could helping encourage people to get credit not only for experience as somebody else had said previously, but also for advancing beyond banking sort of hours of extra information and extra education that somebody might want to try and do. It's just a thought. I don't know if anybody has an interest in that subject.
Hi, this is Soccer. I'm probably not. I am 100% not lenient at all. I think that 18 hours for 2 years is a joke, in my humble opinion. I think that we should have our hours should be way more than that. So I'd be 100% for us doing 30 hours in 2 years. That would mean 15 hours per year. It's so super easy to get that if you're going for designations, or if you are doing just extra classes that come out, if you are attending events around the world, even around definitely around the United States, that have CE hours. I mean, those are types of things that you can get. I never just have 18 hours. My hours are usually anywhere between 35 to 55 every 2 years, because this is my profession. It's my full-time profession, and I'm continually learning. And so I think 18 hours is, in my opinion, too low. So if we have 18 hours as the minimum, and then and of the minimum, it would have to be the 6 hours for broker responsibility, and then the other hours for legal, and then maybe another 12 hours for whatever else you want to take. I'd be okay.
And just to clarify, we're talking about, just for this thing about broker education requirements to maintain a license.
Correct.
Yes, that's what we're talking about for renewal. Our 24, our 18 hours that we renew every 2 years.
Hey, Mark, as a completely off-topic side note, and I've asked Lori Levy for this as well, but I just figured I'd put it in your ear while we're having it. A white paper from the commission on broker succession would be awesome.
I'm writing that down, but you're right, it is slightly off topic. So white paper on broker succession. Actually, I do have some news on that, because I happen to be on the broker responsibility writing course group, and there is it is being mentioned in that book, which will be coming out in the fall. So, but let me make a note of that as well, and just make sure I'm not remembering wrong.
It was actually in the book I just did. Whatever. It was in one of the continuing ed books. I have it right here. Let's see. The Texas Common Legal Issues in Real Estate, succession was in there.
It's in the broker responsibility, talk about succession.
Maybe that's it. Yes, that's it. It is in there. In the written policies chapter. Anybody else have any thoughts on what you would like to accomplish?
And I did put up there, Leslie, just so y'all on the sort of live minutes, I put down the 5 things that at least that I know of. I think there's probably more that the last group did accomplish. A lot of stuff is pending, but they actually did get a lot done in all those meetings.
Right. I saw the broker mentorship in the broker working group book that was put out, I guess, before the January meeting. So that was all in there.
And as I want you to add, there's a lot on this list here. So we have broker mentorship, seems like something that's come up repeatedly, the internship, apprenticeship up there. So if you read up there on number 10, those notes I have, does that capture, it's more enforcement. Does that capture what y'all discussed or want to see maybe on the next agenda? That's obviously not this part, but those 5 or 6 items, is that what y'all want to see?
Yep, that looks great to me. This is soccer.
Oh, right. I just wanted to say that I would also like to add, if we can discuss about the background checks and possibly not just necessarily, background checks, but I've noticed that a lot of times some agents are taken into like people's courts or not necessarily made taken into track, and I would like to see if there's a way to also check and ask about those things, where people, put complaints not with track, but taking people to court.
Oh, so you're talking about so when someone applies for a broker license? Yeah, we do a background check. We check for unpaid judgments is the only thing that's currently existing is we check for unpaid judgments on that.
Yeah, but even just to know, like, you have to be able to disclose they've been, there's been an issue that they've been taken to court for something.
Okay.
That even if it's been settled.
So even if settled. Okay. Is that accurate? Okay. Subject to the y'all's approval or the chair's approval, then what I've listed there is that's what y'all would like to see on the next meeting.
Yes.
Was military spouses already addressed previously?
I think it was because it's the military spouses and the military spouses, that's already handled. That's already a law. This is soccer. That's already a law. So if she's transferring from Oceanside, California, and she sold real estate in Oceanside, California, and she's being transferred to Texas because her husband is going to be now in Killeen or in San Antonio. If she had her real estate license, she can continue to work up to 3 years. So that I think that's already handled.
And I think the whole I can't say that word without help.
Reciprocity.
Thank you. That it actually applies to military spouses when we address it as a state, right? Like the R word that
yes.
other brokers have. They'll all be addressed within the same. I will work on that word for the next meeting, I promise.
Think of recipe. So reciprocity. Think of that. Reciprocity.
Making my notes. Thank you, Soccer.
I wanted to pipe in here. I'm Chelsea Buckholz, the executive director of Trek. I was late to join the call, but I wanted to use the opportunity to say hello. Thank you for agreeing to be a part of this working group. We are really excited that you're here and that you're willing to do this work. And also, I wanted to mention that on the military spouse issue, there's reciprocity for people with substantially similar education, and currently there are no states with substantially similar education or requirements. So it's a rule without meaning for sales agents and brokers currently, which is why we are even more excited for you to be here to examine those education requirements.
So they can't start selling, even though it says it, that they can come here from California with a real estate license, and they've been practicing real estate in California for 10 years, and they come here to Texas. They cannot practice, even though it says that?
Because of that's right. That's exactly right. Because there's a provision within our rule that talks about substantial equivalency. And there is no state that has that substantial equivalency. And I'll explain a little bit. The legislature required licensing entities to pass rules that we passed if there is substantial equivalency. I mean, they provided that language for us, so it is included. It's also language we use elsewhere in our rules. It has more meaning for other license types, like inspectors, but does little for the real estate sales agents and brokers. But I don't think it should remain that way. This is just me speaking.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Is that something y'all would like to tackle? Then I unstruck it out and put that back.
Yep.
Is that something y'all want to look at then?
Absolutely.
Question about that, Chelsea?
Yes, please. I hope I have an answer.
This is Bob Jacobs. So short of the legislature making a change in their wording, the other option would be to recommend less education. Since we have the most stringent requirements in the country, we would have to lessen our requirements here to fulfill this. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Everybody listen to that. We're going to hear that a lot, I think. Not to.
I mean, I'm telling you guys, even with the 6 hours, 6 classes, that's nothing. If we make it less than that, that's just my opinion. I'm all for education. How can less education protect the public? That's just my opinion.
Right. I agree. Hey, Chelsea.
Yes.
Since you've just dropped in here and we were talking about some other stuff, but on number 10, is there anything as executive director you'd like to see us tackle?
You've got it. And I spoke with Chairman Kestner earlier, and I understand he provided you with some comments, and he and I coordinated some ahead of time. So no, you've got it. I'm excited you're here, virtually here. I didn't mean to hijack this meeting. Mark, back to you.
We have a chair, actually, Chair Leslie Lerner, and a vice chair and a secretary. So I'm an advisor on that, but I am trying to take notes to document what they're saying.
Fantastic. Okay.
I've modified the notes. If you number A was what the chair mentioned and that's basically the same as number D there, which I think it was Brian that mentioned that as well. So A and D are that's kind of the balance. And then Soccer and Bob has also mentioned the sort of tension or the balance between consumer protection versus regulation. So that's always a balance that we're always facing and that y'all appointed to figure out.
So Mark, I guess 10 and 11 are kind of the same.
Yeah, I think so. Once you say what to focus on, unless there's something else you wanted, but if that's, I mean, that looks like plenty to me, but if there's other items you wanted to discuss that are within your charge, as well as focus first or long-term or something like that. But yeah, I think 10 kind of probably resolved number 11, unless y'all have something else.
I have another comment on that. You know, we just went through the process of looking as to whether, you know, what do they call this? The Sunset Commission?
Yeah, Sunset Commission.
Are there any recommendations we should know about that would affect our thinking on these? Because I know they've given guidance to everyone that all the departments and commissions that they reviewed, and if our thinking is going in the wrong way, we need to know that if in fact they have guided, you know, which was a lot of the reason why the governor came up with his letter. And so I'm assuming that a lot of the things in the governor's letter was dictated by the Sunset Commission. Make it easier to get a license, make it less restrictive, things like that. I'm just asking.
It is easier now because a broker in Texas, this is soccer. In Texas, we used to have a residency requirement. So you could not be an out of town broker. You had to actually have an office in Texas, and it couldn't be a P.O. box. And so now through the Sunset Commission process, they recommended, and it is now law, but most people don't know, that a broker from California, who's a broker who takes the courses in Texas and becomes a broker, can get a real estate broker's license in Texas and not be in Texas. So that's one change that I'm aware of. I don't know of any of the other ones that I'm thinking about, but that was one that struck me as what? So
I can tell you that all of the directives from the Sunset Commission that were both management directives and then those that were required with the bill that was passed related to our Sunset bill, I'll call it, have been implemented. The governor's letter was sent to all licensing entities and was intended to kind of encourage kind of less regulation where appropriate. But it wasn't connected to anything related to our sunset. Now the sunset bill. Now some of the intention or goals may be similar. Certainly the politics might be similar, but I wanted you to have that distinction.
Thank you.
Is that something you wanted added then, Bob, or do you feel it's been adequately addressed?
Well, I guess it's addressed. I mean, we just have to keep in mind that what the letter says is serious, because if we head down directions trying to go against those, we'll be met with a brick wall. And part of that is more regulation and more education and more restrictions to get into the industry are not welcome at the legislature. Correct?
Perhaps, and also it's at the rule level as well, because the governor's regulatory office compliance division reviews every rule. So that's another area. Well, if something was changed, it would be reviewed and may or may not be approved.
Gotcha. Okay.
I guess we're on to number 12. How often do all of you want to meet?
And
as I said earlier, I'm on salary, so I can meet every day, but y'all are volunteers.
Not every day.
Mark, historically, what's the answer to this question been?
How long do we have, how long does this group last? As in a term?
It doesn't have a term. It's pretty much at the will of the commission. The one plan was to meet at least 4 times, but it could be monthly or quarterly, and then we can help with dates as well. But it's kind of up to y'all. That's as you see up there, number 10. That's a lot of items, and you're probably going to meet anywhere from 1.5 to 4 hours, perhaps, at a meeting. So you have to balance that as well.
it would seem to me that maybe an efficient way to determine that would be to say, we pick the 5 or 6 items, and that each meeting would be a referendum on on one of those items, and we would sort of concentrate on an item, get background information, get our materials, and then be able to discuss and debate and determine something on a specific item. So if we've got 5 deals to work on, then we have 5 meetings, or we can, if there are going to be things that could be doubled up, that we would sort of specify the meeting to a specific issue that we're trying to address, so that we can focus on that. And I think that would be a good way to sort of manage all of our time and get us to manage our calendars also, and be prepared for sort of a serious discussion and a decision making event, rather than just sort of going from different covering a lot of different topics.
I agree with Bill on that, and I think meeting in a month from now with specific items to discuss, including we could even take the list in order perhaps, and in the interim perhaps get those 6 pages of notes that Bob was talking about, so that we're not retreading the same ground that they've already gone through. And then after we meet in a month, we're probably going to be better prepared to have a handle on how often are we going to need to have these meetings, or should we have the meetings.
I agree with Brian. This is Soccer.
I agree as well. This is Holly.
Sounds like a plan.
If y'all want to meet next month, I think Amber may have some possible dates in July that could get y'all discussing on that, and so you at least have the one meeting schedule. If you want to schedule a couple, just because I know y'all at least have that much.
We have July 8th as a possibility, Wednesday, July 8th, or even could do Tuesday, June 30th.
This is Chance. I'm available either day in the afternoon.
I'm available in the afternoons also those days.
This is Brian, and I'm available both of those days as well.
This is Soccer, ditto, both days in the afternoon.
Yeah. This is
I am as well.
same here. Yeah.
I'm sorry, it was July 8th, and what was the other date?
June 30th.
This is Holly. July 8th is better for me, and it's available.
July 8th is better for me as well.
And so what would be the purpose of that meeting? I mean, what would be the agenda on that particular meeting?
Bill, what do you think about just taking those topics in order? So for that meeting, we would look at the notes from the previous work group, and maybe we can get those in advance and just take these agenda items in order. So it would be balancing education and experience points.
Right. I think that's where I was sort of going with this. I think that'd be an excellent approach.
Okay, so is it July 8th that we decided?
Oh,
Yes.
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 Here we go.
Did y'all mention a time? And did you like morning, afternoon? I heard a couple of things mentioned, but I wasn't sure that Amber and I got that on when y'all want to meet, what time.
Afternoon.
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 So 1
1
p.m.
or
okay?
2.
Yeah, 1 o'clock is
1
pretty.
p.m.
1 o'clock is great. Yeah.
And how much time slot did y'all want to give for that?
2 hours,
2.
2.5. Yeah.
I think 2.5, just to be safe.
Yeah. From 1 to 3:30, just to be safe.
Are you delivering snacks?
Just treats at your door.
You have to bring your own to the video conference, right?
Yeah.
They're delivering the same amount they do when you meet there.
There you go.
I know.
Right, Mark?
Yeah, one of the bureaucratic things which I struggle with shifting from private sector to public is you cannot provide food or drink on basically state money on that too. So it was weird. I was interviewing and no one would even offer me a cup of coffee, and I thought state government people are the rudest people in the universe. They don't know basic courtesies, and then I found out when I worked there, it's like, oh, the attorney general said you can't do that. So I was like, okay. So.
Okay, so 1 o'clock on the 8th.
Perfect.
Just about 1 month from now.
And Leslie, I'll be in touch with you on the agenda as well when we get that later on down there. And thank you all for making this really easy and so much progress. And y'all accomplished what we need as your staff, and anything we can do for you, let us know.
Leslie, now
Thank you,
you
guys.
need something.
Is it anticipated it'll be a video meeting also?
I don't know in July or whether it'll be attendance an option if Chelsea is on. Maybe I don't know. We're all kind of guessing on that, on what it'll be like in a month. Remote will definitely always be an option for y'all, but I don't know what the requirements will be on that. Chelsea, do you have an idea for that in July?
I don't have an idea on that. In fact, we're even looking at whether or not we do remote meetings for the commission and for the board in August. I think it will somewhat depend on whether or not our physical building is considered open. Like, is there a receptionist at the front door? Logistics like that. We should have more information on that at least by the middle of June. Well, it is the middle of June. Within maybe 2 weeks or so. But I anticipate status quo for the time being. Really. So more remote meetings. We have very few staff at the office right now, so I'm not encouraging them to return quickly.
I think we're all sort of reticent to be traveling right now.
Yeah.
And when you're ready, Leslie, that you're able to adjourn whenever you feel it's appropriate.
Sorry, did that meeting invitation just come over at noon, or is it my setting?
Pardon?
I think it was 1 to 3:30 is what I saw.
1 to 3:30.
Yeah, did everybody get it? Because I think mine says noon, though.
Mine's 1 to 3:30.
Are you in El Paso?
No. I used to live there. No. Okay, I see it. For some reason, I have a different one. I'll figure it out. Sorry. I'll figure it out.
Is there anything else before we adjourn? Okay, then I guess we adjourn.
Thank you.
I don't know.
Thank you.
See y'all later.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.